It's Hollie's Hotspurs, welcome back. Talking Tottenham every week, no better place to be sat. If it's a win, lose, draw, we'll be here for a chat. Best believe we tackle topics like Romero in the back. Heung-Min Son, what can go wrong when he's on form? It's a dream come true, so sit back, relax and vibe with us. Special guests every time here to discuss. Bring your passion, come along for the ride, and don't forget to subscribe, cause...
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollie's Hotspurs Live, where tonight we've got some news to talk about in the fact of Igor Tudor is the new interim manager at Tottenham Hotspur. And with me to do so, to dissect it all and more, I'm joined by two fabulous guests. First of all, Billy, it's great to have you on the channel. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm really good. Thank you. Good to be on with you guys as well. Great panel as always. And yeah, I mean, crazy amount of stuff has been happening this week. So looking forward to getting into it all with you guys.
Defo, 100%. It's quite nice not to talk about a game for once, and Frank's kind of tactics. It's nice to talk about something different. We're also joined by the amazing George as well. George, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. It's nice to have a weekend not actually focusing or watching any football and just being a little bit stress-free before we get into probably one of the most stressful weekends we're going to have towards the end of the season. But yeah, looking forward to dissecting it all and talking about our new man in charge.
Oh, yes, defo. And like I say, welcome to everybody that's tuning in. Please bear with me because I am trialing something brand new tonight. So I can see that my audio is a little bit low. So I will change that in a minute. But welcome all. So let's kick off things. So, Billy, it was no kind of allusion to the matter that obviously Frank had to go. I mean, how are you kind of with the news with the new man being Igor Tudor?
Well, I was delighted that Frank left, to be honest. I think that was the most important thing. I think, you know, after the Newcastle game, I was genuinely quite scared that we might go down for the first time properly. I've always kind of thought about relegation, and I don't think, you know, something that we could ever dismiss. But that game and that performance was the first time I actually thought, oh my God, this is actually really real now. If he stays here, we're actually going to go down. So that was good that he went. And then, to be honest, I think it was on a Friday, wasn't it, that Igor Tudor just kind of came out of nowhere and ended up being, you know, all happening pretty quickly, really. Like, seemed to go from like Romano to to everything real quick. Not something that I was massively bowled over at first. I put a tweet out on Friday that said, you know, what can you tell me about him? And the initial response was quite negative. But the more I read about him and the more I read about his sort of situation and what he does, his specialities, and the more I've sort of warmed to it a little bit. And I think he's essentially just a specialist interim, which is exactly what we need, because I think we all know where it looks likely to be heading in summer. And as long as we survive and then, you know, we appoint someone good in summer, you know, it'll all work out all right in the end.
That's the thing, because for me as well, it's a little bit left field. I had no idea, well, really who Igor Tudor was until I did a bit of research. I mean, for you, George, how did you kind of feel in the news coming across?
Yeah, I was a little bit shocked at first, only because I knew that he was Paratici's recommendation back in November to replace Frank. So I was a little bit set aback that they would actually sort of, you know, copy Paratici's homework and just bring in the guy that he wanted in the first place, when we probably realistically should have sacked Frank a long time ago. But yeah, so I was a bit taken back, but exactly the sort of same thing. When I first thought about it, all I knew at the time was he hasn't really stayed places very long. He wasn't at Juventus very long. And I think everyone just always had that preconceived notion that, you know, a manager working in the Serie A and especially Juventus is quite defensive. So at first I thought, is this really the best approach? But same thing that Billy was saying there, that when you actually look into him a bit more, if he was to be a long-term option, I would be gutted, and I think that'd be the wrong way to go. But I think the matter of the fact is, the history of his career so far has shown when you bring him in as an interim or sort of short-term basis to get results, he's done that. He's done that at multiple clubs now. He's done that at Marseille, Lazio, Juventus. And I think the important thing for me is those are three quite big clubs, whereas some of the options that were being thrown around, there would have been a bit more of a Hail Mary, you know, like if it was Robbie Keane, it's sort of like, well, yeah, he knows Spurs, he understands what the fans want, but really and truly, we don't know what his level is yet, because he's only managed in Israel and in Hungary. And then you look to the likes of, you know, Tim Sherwood, Harry Redknapp, they were throwing their hat in the ring. And you sort of think, well, neither of those have managed for over a decade. And as much as, again, with this whole notion of it's someone that knows the club, is that we don't really know if that's necessarily the right thing to do in this modern age. And then when you see that he's really, Tudor really puts out fires most places he goes. And I think he had the exact same record for Lazio and Juventus 2 years in a row when he came in, which was, I think, was it five wins, 3 draws, 1 loss, I think it was, for their final 9 matches. And to be honest, with the way we're going, I think we only really need, I say only, we probably need, what, about 4 wins, maybe 3-4 wins to like sort of guarantee safety. Hopefully, if he can sort of replicate what he's done in those 2 years, then happy over the moon. I don't think he's going to be here long term anyway. So it seems to be so far a decent-ish appointment in terms of getting the fire up, but we only really will know once we see that first match against Arsenal to what he's sort of getting across to the players.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think that's the thing for me as well. Like I said, it was kind of left field. The fact that obviously his recent history, Billy, in a sense that obviously what he's done at Juve and Lazio, coming in to a team that really need points, that's hopefully something we can cling on to.
Yeah, I think so. And he's literally kept a couple of teams up in the past, and his record in the first 12 games at his club seems to be pretty favourable. And I think at Lazio and Juve, they had 5 wins in his first 8 games, both of them. So yeah, I think it's going to be one of those things where he just sort of keeps us up, goes, and then we thank him and say goodbye.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think going back to obviously your point, George, in a sense of getting someone in that knows the club. I mean, I wanted Harry Redknapp, but I know the poor geezer's getting on now. He's like 79, I think. And he's been out of the game for a long time. But I always thought for Spurs, they were kind of going to go down that route of getting someone in that knows the club. I mean, God forbid, was it Ryan Mason coming back in? But I am actually a little bit glad that it's someone that doesn't really know the club inside and out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess it's a fresh pair of eyes. It's someone who's obviously, I know he's new to the league entirely, but he's not going to be oblivious to the Premier League. I mean, we've seen a lot of sort of ex-Juve and managers in Italy move over to the Prem, and I'm sure he knows about that as well. And I think it's good to have that sort of external perspective, considering that whether we like to admit it or not, we are fighting relegation at the moment, and we need to get out of that and away from it. I think we're 5 points off at the moment. But we all know that could easily slip down to 2 if we lose into Arsenal the weekend, if that happens, and it becomes a real fight. And I think what I like about what I've seen about Tudor so far is that when he's gone into places, it's almost a bit no nonsense, and I think he does seem to light a fire under people's bellies, and he seems to sort of get the players to believe that they can win again. And like you say, going back to the point about someone that knows the club, I think that seems really idealistic. But like you said there with Redknapp, not managed for 10 years, obviously getting on a bit now. The game has changed so much. And I think, is it enough for him to just be someone that knows Spurs to actually keep us away from it? I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer. Same with Sherwood, who seems to be a pundit, talking down on everyone every week on Sky. Again, I'm not sure if he would be the right person. So I think it's good to have someone that's potentially come from different leagues. It's not like he's only managed in Italy. Like he's managed all over Europe. He's done it in France. He's done it in Croatia, and he's done it in Turkey as well. So he clearly knows how to get a tune out of the players that maybe feel a little bit defeated and think they can't win games. And sometimes it's when you're this late in the season, I don't think it's necessarily all going to be about doing some next level tactics and this, that, and the other. The reality is we are just in a fight. And I think we need someone that can just galvanize the players and fans. Like, even take Sunday, for example, against Arsenal. Even if we don't win, but we see that the players really are like battling with with Arsenal, not like the reverse fixture where we just sort of were limp and sat back the whole time. If we saw them going for it and we just couldn't win purely because we've got so many injuries and their talent exceeds ours, I think the fans will start feeling a lot more positive about the end to the season. And I think that means when it comes to playing like Leeds at home, Forest at home, the games that we're going to have to win to get away from relegation, I think we'll have a lot better atmosphere in the stadium.
Defo, without that, I mean, we can only hope anyway. I mean, that's the thing as well, because we know that he likes to be aggressive. We know that he likes to play through at the back. But for you, Billy, obviously, it's a little bit difficult to say, a manager's going to come in when we need to do a fight and kind of develop players. But it's more of the sense getting the best out of players, I feel. Who do you think Igor Tudor is going to come in and make a better player, so to speak, of someone?
Well, I think one of the big problems with Frank was his misprofiling was pretty horrendous. And, you saw that story earlier in the week that Bergvall got transfer interest in January. That just is crazy to say that a young talent like that has been so sort of misprofiled and in and out the team that someone like Aston Villa or Chelsea think they can go and buy him. So I think what we need to see is players just playing in their right positions again. Again, you saw it with Xavi Simons, sometimes playing on the left, sometimes playing in the middle, and never really looking that effective until he did switch up into the middle. And then Kolo Muani, I think, is a big one as well. I think Kolo Muani had a really good stretch with him under Juve, so I think he'll be playing to his particular. I think what will be interesting to see is that obviously Igor Tudor favours back five. So it'd be interesting to see. There's going to be a lot of emphasis on the wing backs. I think it'll be interesting to see who he's going to pick, because right now we're a bit short for wing backs. Archie Gray's been playing there a lot recently. Porro is apparently possibly back in training for the North London derby. I think that'd be big for us, because we need a right back badly, or Spence. Because we don't have a left back as well. Then Spence having to play on the left. A fresh pair of eyes in Igor Tudor might just look at Sousa and just think, right, because he's actually left-footed and he's an actual left back or wing back, then I might just play him instead of Spence. Because Thomas Frank always seems to favour Spence on the left, which I think he did okay in, but I don't think it's good having a right footer there. So I think the wing backs in particular, Kolo Muani and Xavi Simons, will be the big ones for this one, I think.
Yeah, and like you say, just playing players in their right positions. I think that's the biggest thing for me. I'm fed up of trying to put players in positions that we think will work and they don't, and it just doesn't work to our strengths. So
yeah, I mean, I think under Frank we had Bergvall, Richarlison, Xavi, Muani, Tell, Odegaard, all played on the left wing, which is that's like six. I'm forget. I think there's more than that as well that actually ended up playing there. So that's six players.
Archie Gray weren't there.
yeah, that's six players that ended up playing on the left wing under Frank. At least I'm sure there's another one that I'm forgetting as well. Brennan Johnson is the other one that I was forgetting. So that's 7 players that played on the left wing under Frank, which is just crazy, really. He never really settled on a team, I don't think, in his whole time that he was here.
no, exactly, and I think that again was a massive problem. Obviously, talking about not just Igor Tudor, but we had confirmation today, obviously, George, of the coaching staff that have come in under him, and also those that have left. I mean, for you, there's a few surprising ones. I think the biggest one standing out of all of them is Hettinger, obviously gone within 33 days. It's madness, isn't it?
Yeah, it is mad. Just super quickly on the point before talking about that. Funnily enough, I'm actually rewatching his Tudor's first match in charge, Juventus versus Genoa, where they won 1-0. This was in March 29th last year. And just on players playing in right positions and sort of getting the best out of them, they were actually in a sort of similar situation to we were, where they had quite a few injuries. Like Bremer, one of the top-rated centre-backs, he wasn't available, so they had to play Lloyd Kelly a lot. And they didn't really have anyone available for left wing-back. So he actually played Weston McKennie left wing back, which seems odd, but I guess it's similar sort of thing what we're doing when Gray's had to play right wing back under Frank. But what I liked about what I'm seeing so far in this match, I've only watched the first half so far, but he's still using the players to their abilities, even if it is in technically like the wrong position. So even though McKennie was playing left wing back, what I'm noticing a lot is that they're quite fluid in their movements, and McKennie would come in and Lloyd Kelly would almost overlap, who was playing as left centre back. He would almost become like a left wing back. Then one of the midfielders fills in at centre back, and that way he could still get McKennie into the middle of the pitch, which is where he's known for. He plays as like an 8 normally. So I like the fact that he knows what the players can do, and it's not like he's asking McKennie, right, you're left wing back, so you have to go down to the left wing. Because I think we saw that a little bit with Gray playing right wing back, that he was having to play as a right wing back, like overlapping, which obviously doesn't play to his strength. So there is a possibility we might see something similar to that. If Gray has to play right wing back, I'm hoping that he can recognize that his best ability is in the middle of the park, and he sort of does around that. But yeah, sorry, back to just what I wanted to point that out, just because it's something really fresh in my mind from what I'm watching. But yeah, onto the coaching, I think it's just so typical Spurs and laughable, isn't it? That we bring in an assistant manager to replace Matt Wells, who obviously left in December. Heitinger joined in January? I think it was only 33 days ago, and now he's gone. I was quite surprised by that. I assumed he was just going to be at Spurs, because we brought him in and there was potential view that he could have been the one that was the caretaker instead of Tudor. But I guess if all of these people are part of the problem, it's probably not all on Frank, right? The one that I'm probably most gutted by is Cochrane, because he comes out like very, very, very highly rated because he's in the England setup and seems to be a future brilliant coach, so to speak. But I guess if he sort of comes with Frank, he kind of goes with Frank, really. So yeah, I'm not surprised to see a few of them go, but it's just quite funny that Heitinger lasted the best part of a month.
I think that's the biggest thing, which again kind of draws those eyes to those at the top that kind of brought him in under the realization that they wanted him to stay. I think that's the biggest thing for me, Billy.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. And Yeah, I think I found the whole coaching thing quite interesting. Really, I think particularly the Heitinga part, and then I guess they didn't release anything for a couple of days, and then you're kind of wondering, well, is Cochrane going to stay? I bet Cochrane, looking back now, probably wished he took the Brentford job. He rejected to join us, and now he's without a job a months later. But I guess it's good that Tudor is getting his guys. I think that's really important, and I just think we needed a clean break from this Frank situation because it's been so diabolical, and everyone involved has been underwhelming. And Cochrane came in particular as a really highly regarded coach, and apparently was the attacking coach, and the attacking that we've seen has been absolutely shocking. So I'm glad we're getting a clean break. And then, like, as you mentioned, the only thing that shining light was set piece coach. So I'm glad that he stayed.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I put that in my notes as the only thing that was important, is the fact that he stayed, because we have managed to obviously score some goals from some set pieces, which is nice. But yeah, like I say, it's very interesting that Heitinga's gone, and obviously Cochrane as well. So kind of moving on, I guess that kind of leads us to the next big game, which is obviously Arsenal, George. And I know you've touched on it slightly, but hopefully we can kind of get a new manager bounce. Now, I don't want to seem too delusional, because I know Arsenal are high flying sadly at the minute, but it would be nice to try and salvage something from that game.
Yeah, listen, look, I'd bite your hand off for a draw right now. Anything that sort of gives us a positive result that we can take forward into the next match, and then equally puts a dent in their title hopes, I think would be an absolute win-win. So no, I think it's good. It's getting in a new manager has come at the right time. Obviously, I wish it would happen a lot sooner, because I think we're leaving it quite late in the season. But just in terms of the fact that we had 12 days between our last match and the Arsenal game, they would have played 2 matches in between that in the FA Cup, and well, technically 3 actually, because they played after us in the Premier League. But yeah, they would have played in the FA Cup, and they've got Wolves next this week. So it's good that we've had the rest. It gives everyone a break to sort of hopefully recover from some injuries, get Tudor in the door, and hopefully he's got the whole of this week now, starting from today, to sort of get the players up to speed to what he wants. And what I like, and even though it's a tough game, I think that is probably, in a way, a better motivator, or better motivation that he can use to sort of get our players firing again, because he can use the whole, this is your chance to show the fans what you can really do. Let's put a dent in their title hopes. Let's get ourselves back up the pitch, up the table, most importantly. And being at home helps massively as well, because I'm hoping us fans, the fans that are going, can really sort of drive a better atmosphere. And what I've seen of Tudor so far that I like is that even though his in possession abilities aren't incredible, he's not the next Guardiola or anything like that. But every single game he plays, it's always aggressive, man-to-man pressing, and they go at the opposition. And I think a lot of the Spurs fans in the stadium are going to really like that, especially playing against Arsenal, because looking back at that away game when we played, we actually had the same sort of formation that we will probably play in a 5-2-3, but it was just the mannerism was so off. It was a deep back 5. You had Odegaard not knowing who to press. Kudus didn't know what to do. Everything just seemed so disjointed and so defensive, to the point where we barely touched the ball. We barely had a shot. Whereas I think it'll be a bit different this time. I think we're going to be onto them a lot more. And like I said, even if we don't come away with a win, I think this is a good game to actually sort of set down and put your foot down and say, no, we're going to come out of the blocks firing, and we're going to fight to stay up in this league.
I like that. I think that's what we need to do as well, because I know you mentioned, George, obviously the kind of thoughts and feelings at the moment in the home stadium and our home form. It'd be such a great bounce back, won't it, Billy, to kind of see us come out with some sort of attack and aggression under Igor.
Yeah, and look, I know, so if Pep Guardiola was leading us out on Sunday, it would be a difficult win, even because they're Arsenal are simply miles better than us at the moment, and a very difficult team to beat. They only have a handful of losses in the league all season and in all competitions. But I think fans will just want to see some kind of fight. And if you watch the Brentford game at the weekend, actually, and also interestingly, since we played our last game, Arsenal have had 3 games, so there's a little bit of an advantage there that you'd hope, even though we do have a major injury crisis. But they've got Wolves on Wednesday. They've had an FA Cup game, and then they played Brentford after us as well. But if you watch that Brentford game, if you do get up to them a little bit and give it to them, then they can actually crumble. And I think Brentford are actually unlucky not to win that game. And I think that's what hopefully we'll be doing under Tudor. And I think we've got some characters that can do it as well. We're quite a physical team. We've got runners like Sarr and Gallagher and Dragusin and is a physical player, and Van der Ven is a physical player, Palin is a physical player. We've got people that can definitely be physical to them if we try. And then even things like the set pieces, Brentford showed that Raya hated having his own sort of taste of their own medicine, didn't he? So there's definitely ways in for us, but I think it's massive realistically expectations. I don't think anyone's really expecting a win, but just giving us a bit of fight would be good, because in the 2 derbies we've had against Chelsea and Arsenal this season have been absolutely shocking, and there's a long way to go. There's a big upside that we can get to. Even just a bit of fight will be an improvement on that.
I think so as well, because obviously after that Arsenal game, we've obviously then got Fulham away, Palace at home, and Liverpool away. So even getting a draw or showing some sort of fight in this game, George, could really set us up for those future fixtures.
Yeah, definitely. And those aren't easy either. Apart from, you could argue maybe Palace at home is probably the easiest out of those 4, just purely because it's obviously that they're struggling a bit as well. I know Fulham haven't had the best results, but Fulham away in recent years has not been too great for us. I think we've gone into that match just not looking like we care, and it's just been a bit slow, which I'm hoping will be different this time. But yeah, you're right. I think if we can go into the Arsenal match, just be on the front foot, be a bit more aggressive, set the tone for the next few matches, and hopefully, in the really tough matches, like, nick a draw here and there, hopefully get a win against Fulham, sort of break that bad one a little bit, and then get the win at home at Palace. And then ultimately you then start looking forward to the other matches. Look, Liverpool away has always been a tough game for us, no matter what manager we've had, when we've looked good, when we've looked bad. So you can't really expect too much in that game, even with how they've been playing. But then after that, we've got some of the games that absolutely have to win. When you look at Forest at home, Leeds at home, I think we finished the season Everton at home as well. So there's a lot of winnable games there if this team start believing they can win. And I think that's why Sunday for me is so important, because we don't have to necessarily get the win, as nice as it would be, but as long as the team know that, no, we can actually, like Billy said there with Brentford, they just went at Arsenal. And like they made it difficult. And then, to be honest with you, I think Brentford deserved to win that game. They had so many clear chances at the end. I don't know how Thiago didn't bury some of them. So yeah, I think they're definitely, you can definitely get at them and make them feel a little bit nervy. Oh, voice went there. A little bit nervy. But yeah, I'm just excited to see more the intent that we can put onto them going forward.
100%. And that's the thing. It's just that intensity that we kind of need. Hopefully, like I say, we pick up some points. Even if it's not a win against Arsenal, we see some fight, and potentially a draw would be lovely. I mean, that might be speaking a bit out of tone. It might be too difficult. But even then, just to set us up for the next couple of games. But then it kind of leads us on, because we're talking about setting things up. Obviously, Igor Tudor's got a massive job ahead of him. But we're also got in the back of our heads in the summer. Now, Billy, for you, how do you see things going down for you and the new manager?
Well, I think we can sort of guess that there seems to be only one way that it's heading. I think a certain Argentinian Pochettino manager. And I think that's why, if you looked at the reports, they were sort of so adamant that it would be an interim for this till June, and then that's it. They weren't entertaining anything beyond that. They weren't entertaining someone like Robbie Keane, or reportedly Robbie Keane was someone like that was coming in and saying, well, even if I do well, could I get a permanent job? They were saying, we're not interested in that at the moment. We're only interested in an interim. So that points to a summer manager. And obviously, there's been a lot of noise around Pochettino, a lot of it coming from himself. And I think it's pretty clear that that's the number one choice, to be honest. And I would imagine that happens. And I think the only problem with that is obviously we've got the World Cup hurdle to get through in the first place. But yeah, it'll be exciting. I think everyone will be hoping that USA go out in the group stage so we can get them earlier, because otherwise you just know what the excuses they'll roll out will be. Well, he didn't come until the World Cup, and then it was difficult to sign any players. So, I mean, what would be an ideal situation if they can do it is try and get Pochettino on some kind of pre-contract, so we can already start talking about, like targets and transfer plans. Because Langer, you've got to pray that he goes in summer as well. Did say they're already starting to talk about summer. Well, if you don't know who the manager's going to be, that's going to be pointless. But if you already have an idea that it's Pochettino, then But then I guess the only problem with that is what do we do if Igor wins the Champions League after that?
Yeah, that's the other headache. So I was going to say, if he does well, George, do you keep him on, or do you think this is only because of what he's done in stints at clubs, that's what Spurs are kind of hoping out that he's going to do, and then be like, cheers, mate, see you later?
I genuinely think he would have to do almost the unthinkable to even potentially get him in as a full-time manager. Like, I'm talking 12 out of 12 wins, Champions League win. It's got to be something phenomenal like that. I think he knows what he's getting into. He knows he's been told, you're here until the summer. do the job. And I think just going off of history and all of the clubs he's been at, he's not been anywhere longer than a year. So I don't think it would be a good thing, even if it was. Let's just put a scenario. Even if he won 8 out of the 12 games, maybe we got to a quarter semi-final of the Champions League. I just don't think he is the future of what Tottenham should be building, in my opinion. So no, I think he knows the job at hand. Keep us safe. Have a good run in the Champions League. I mean, who knows? Stranger things have happened in the past. When we got to the final the last time, we had relegation form in the league. So who knows? Anything's possible. But yeah, no, I think the view is most likely Pochettino, right? I think in my eyes, when I'm trying to put like my thinking cap onto who would be the better options, like I love Alonso, I love Nagelsmann. Those are like my two elite top two choices. The problem is, I think given our situation, even if we do, like, we stay up, maybe we finish around about 12th, 13th, 14th, wherever it is, we just don't look very attractive right now because we won't have Champions League football, obviously, unless we somehow win the Champions League. We won't have Champions League football. That's 2 seasons in a row we were at a poor league finishes. And I think someone like Alonso, for example, would be holding out for the Liverpool job. I'm not sure how long Slot's going to last, even if he sees out the season. Again, for them to keep Slot past the summer, I think Liverpool would probably have to win the Champions League as well, because everything's been pointing towards him getting sacked at some point too. So it's hard to attract the elite of the elite. And I think what the club needs right now is a manager that, one, for some reason, is as delusional as the rest of us and absolutely adores and loves Tottenham Hotspur and just doesn't quite want to give it up. So I think, and he will also get the grace from the fans, right? I think even if things don't start off that well, which is pretty typical of a Pochettino team, whether that was at Chelsea, whether that's for the USA national team, whether it was for us, it was a bit of a ropey start, but then he works out his best team and it tends to grow from there. Like Chelsea towards the end of the season before he got sacked were looking really, really good. It was the best Palmer's played. It's the best Gallagher's played. So I think he's the only one of the list of managers available that would get the time from the fans to get to that point again. So yeah, I think just everything's pointing towards his return, and just fingers crossed it pays off, because I don't want to have to ruin. I don't want his legacy to be ruined. So
Yeah, I think I'm with you as well. And to be honest with you, I wasn't anti-Poch, but I was kind of like, you never go back. But then I can't remember who said it on the podcast last week, but they were saying, but if we don't get him and he goes and wins somewhere else in the Prem, I'm going to be devastated, in the sense that it should have been at Spurs, isn't it, Billy?
Yeah, I think so. And, I also just kind of think, on an argument, there isn't, because I think, Tottenham fans are speaking with their heart when they say they want Pochettino, but I do think there's a sensible head argument as well. And that we do have a very young squad at the moment. And I think he'd be ideal for them in terms of man manager and, a coach, because we've never seen a coach like it since at Tottenham in terms of player development. And when you look at what got when he took over to what he sort of left them as, the coaching job he did was insane. And there's people like Bergvall, Odegaard, Tell, Archie Gray, Vuskovic will be coming through. We've got some good talent like Mikey Moore and in the academy as well. There's so much young talent. We know that that's what Pochettino thrives on. And I think people have a bit of a misguided opinion on his job since he left Tottenham, and they say that he did terrible at PSG and Chelsea. Well, PSG was a complete shambles until Luis Enrique was the first person to really be able to crack it properly on a sort of a proper level, and Pochettino did win the league there. But Chelsea, I think, is a really interesting case, because when he left there, he was sort of third in the form league, and you look at the way that the players talk about him, like Gallagher and Cole Palmer in particular. Like Cole Palmer credits Pochettino of making him as a player, so that's a pretty big indictment of Pochettino. So a pretty good advert for Pochettino, I should say. Sorry, and I think it'll be the same at Tottenham. There's just a lot of young talent which I think would be really good for, and I'm all for it. And that what you said about the, until we actually do this, then it's just, it'll be the same with the next manager. Whoever comes in, they'll be under pressure, and the fans will start singing Pochettino's name again. Until we actually do this, it's always going to be a question.
Yeah, that's a great shout. I think it's a sense, like you say, because we've kind of all, when things are getting bad, we shout his name. It is kind of like, well, let's just bring him back then, and see how things will go. And I think the fact, like you both have said tonight, the fact that he's flirting with the club publicly, and the fact that we've done this route with an interim manager, it kind of seems that all things are aligning in the sense that Pochettino will be coming back in the summer. But hopefully before then, we can stay up with Igor Tudor, because we do need some points on the board. And I do hope that it does kind of end in that kind of way where he has come in and does a job, because that would be brilliant. But like I say, thank you so much for joining me both tonight. I know that was short and sweet, but I just wanted to do obviously a live with you both to get your kind of initial thoughts on how the week's going to go for us and that game on Sunday. So we'll go around the table and say our goodbye. So Billy, thank you once again for joining us. Where can everybody find you doing your thing?
No. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's actually good to come on. It's not after a game for once, to be honest, because it's a little depressive when we talk about the games, isn't it? So it's been really good. Just Billie T on Twitter and the Whistle Blows on YouTube as well. Let's hope that we get a massive win on Sunday, which would be amazing.
Fingers crossed. And also, George, it's been great to have you on as well. Where can everybody find you doing your thing too?
Oh yeah, thanks for having me on. It's good to have a little chat about, and hopefully look forward to a North London derby, because it's not been that it's not been that way for the last couple of years now. So fingers crossed we can get some sort of big result and just hamper their season, put ours onto the right track to finish strong. Because look, we've seen what Man United did. We're bringing in Carrick. They got, 4 wins in a row. They've absolutely shot up the table because everyone is so close this season. So I think there's a good chance if we go on a really, really good run that we could climb our way back up and maybe claw a Conference League to get European football something for next year. But I know it's going to be a tough ask, but fingers crossed, Igor Tudor's got it for us, and we start with that on Sunday. So thank you for having me. George Achille across every platform, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and I'm just hoping we can be very positive after Sunday.
100%. It means I never have to talk about Thomas the Frank Engine ever again, which is also a lovely thing to say. But like I say, thank you to everybody that's tuned in tonight as well. Like I say, I've been trialing something very new tonight, so hopefully when I go back and rewatch this, it looks all right. But like I say,